Welcome to the Maple Grove Forum for City Council and Mayor. I am Joe Paquette, representing the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to thank you for attending this evening. The North Hennepin Area Chamber and the League of Women Voters of Brooklyn Park, Osseo, Maple Grove are co-sponsoring this candidate forum to encourage voter interest in the upcoming election on November 6th. Neither organization endorses any of the candidates for office. We would like to thank the City of Maple Grove for hosting and the use of their facility for this forum, and CCX Media for their support in televising this event live and for their scheduling of the cablecast replays. It is now my pleasure to introduce Kirsten Chomey, representing the League of Women Voters for our area.
Thank you. Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I would like to welcome you to the Candidates Forum this evening. We are pleased to give you, the voters, this opportunity to get to know the men and women vying for your vote. Our number one goal is the community engagement of informed voters. We are so thankful that you have joined us. The League of Women Voters is an organization that is nonpartisan and volunteer-based. It is organized at the local, state, and national levels to encourage citizens to participate in government. While the LWV members do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse nor support political parties nor candidates. The LWV does encourage its members as individuals, as we encourage each of you, to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. However, the views expressed in this forum are those of the individual candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. By sponsoring this forum this evening, the League provides an opportunity for citizen participation and exposure to the candidate, but again does not provide an endorsement of any kind. All viable candidates have been invited to participate this evening. Again, we're here for the mayor of Maple Grove and the city council seats for Maple Grove. In tonight's forum, the candidates will start with the opening questions that they all received in advance to prepare for tonight, in which they have 1 minute to speak. Then our candidates will have up to 30 seconds to respond to each of the questions that are coming from the audience. Finally, they will be given 1 minute for their final statements. Candidates, the League would like to request that you refrain from making any personal attacks on your fellow candidates. I'd like to take this moment to point out our timekeepers this evening. I'm going to wave at you there. They will show you when you have 15 seconds to finish your statements, and then they will show you when your time has expired. Please make your final statements at that time, as I will be directing the next person's turn. The order has been randomly arranged by my evil mind, so pay attention. Our ushers are handing out cards and pens as needed for your questions. Please raise your hand to receive a card and a pen. And please write your questions that follow the guidelines that are set up by our partnership. Number one, the questions may not be a personal attack on any candidate. Number two, the questions may not have already been asked, although if there are similar questions, we might combine them into one or two. And please write legibly so we can actually read your question. You'd be surprised. Okay, for the audience, please also remember to turn off or silence all communication devices at this time. I'm going to say that again, because so far we're 0 for 2. All communication devices at this time. Thank you. Also, no unauthorized photography will take place during the forum, as it is distracting to the candidates. CCX is live streaming and broadcasting and rebroadcasting tonight's forum, and copies are available upon request to CCX TV. Our candidates this evening are, for mayor, we have Mr. Marc Steffensen and Mr. PJ Agnes. And then for city council seats, we have Mr. Ray Emery, Ms. Karen Jager, I'm going to try this one, Karina Jayasaraya.
Perfect.
Yes. Look at my last name, it's really hard too. Okay, and Mr. Phil Leith. All right, we will begin with the first question that you received in advance. Please tell us about your background and previous involvement in the city and that support your candidacy for this position. Our first responder will be Mr. Steffensen.
Thank you. I am Marc Steffensen. I've been the mayor the last 17 years, and I was on the city council before that. I grew up in the northwest suburbs. I graduated from Robbinsdale High School in 1978, back when Robbinsdale was still a high school. I went to the University of Minnesota Law School, graduated from there, and clerked for a federal judge. My wife and I have lived in the community since 1987, and I've been involved in a lot of community organizations over the years. I've been the president of the North Hennepin Chamber of Commerce. I've been actively involved in the Northwest Kickers Soccer Club, the Maplebrook Soccer Club, and have been involved in supporting and running a number of Republican candidate campaigns throughout the years. I've been a member of the Sheriff's Advisory Committee. I've been the president of the North Metro Mayors Association, on the Regional Council of Mayors, and I've been involved in such other organizations as Pheasants Forever. That's my background, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Mr. Agnes?
My name is PJ Agnes. I have been an educational assistant with the Robbinsdale Area School District since 2000. I also have been involved in youth ministry and children's ministry. My father was a pastor, and so I've been doing that. And I've been involved in ministry in one way or another pretty much my whole life. I also am the founder of Archangel Self-Defense, which is a nonprofit self-defense group that I run, and I've taught mainly women and children, but people from all walks of life self-defense, and have helped them out with their self-defense needs. I got married in 2011, and I think that was my most successful decision. And then my wife Stacy and I immediately moved to Maple Grove. We have a 4-year-old daughter who has lived her entire life in Maple Grove.
Thank you. Ms. Emery, Mr. Emery, sorry.
Thank you, Kirsten. My name is Ray Emery, and I've lived in Maple Grove since 1996, moved here from Illinois. I don't have as an extensive city governance bio as most of the candidates here. I'll say I'm a newbie to city government and have no prior experience in city governance. What I do have and bring to the table are two things. First, I have transferable skills and abilities from both the public and private sector. And two, I would bring a different and fresh perspective and a different way to look at city governance. Through my experience as a board director for small to medium-sized nonprofits, which are dedicated to children and their families, and as a business risk advisory consultant, I have a perspective from also consulting with boards and CEOs and CFOs of what good governance looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jager?
Thank you. I was born and raised in Minneapolis. I attended Minneapolis schools. I've been married to my husband, Henry, for 61 years. We have 2 children and 3 grandchildren, and I've lived in Maple Grove for 29 years. Formerly owning a business for 37 years as vice president treasurer and being well-versed in finance, budgeting, and administrative issues are helpful. I've been currently serving on the Maple Grove City Council for the past 19 years and have never missed a meeting. Also current liaison to the Planning and Lake Quality Commissions. I'm currently Commissioner Treasurer of the Shingle Creek West Mississippi Watershed, trustee for the 279 Foundation, and actively supporting the DARE program by attending all graduations in 19 years and a longtime member of the American Legion. Formerly being liaison to the Park Board and Arbor Committee, I'm a graduate of the First Police Academy and a past member of the Rotary.
Thank you. Ms. Jayasuriya?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Karina Jayasuriya. I have not served my community before in a leadership position, and this would be my first city council position. Having worked for hotels and having opened hotels here in Minnesota, throughout all of the cities, I've participated and still participate with local convention and visitors bureaus to attract business to the area and stay abreast of what is going on in the cities and surrounding areas. City council meetings and events with mayors involved have been part of my industry, and taking that information to incorporate it into business plans for work has been my experience. At a community level, I enjoy community events such as Neighbors Night Out, community sporting events, fundraisers, Maple Grove Days. Event planning is incorporated with my college degree, which is a degree in hotel administration and special events, and event planning was my career for more than a decade. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Leith?
Well, first, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, all of you watching here or at home. I'm a 31-year Maple Grove resident and a homeowner. My wife, Beth, and I have raised 2 adult sons here. I'm a small business owner of a chemical sales agency headquartered here in Maple Grove. It's been an honor and a privilege to have served the last 12 years on the Maple Grove City Council. Prior to that, I held leadership positions on the Maple Grove Planning Commission and Citizens Long Range Improvement Committee. I served on 2 Maple Grove Comprehensive Plan Review Committees and represented the Maple Grove area on the Hennepin County Capital Budgeting Task Force. I'm an active member and past president of the Maple Grove Lions Club, and active member and volunteer at Lord of Life Lutheran Church, leading their Jamaica Mission Team program. You need to be involved in the community to really know what's going on, what's on the residents' minds, and demonstrate your leadership capabilities. These civic and faith leadership roles definitely support my candidacy for this position.
Thank you. Our next question. What are the most critical issues facing the city of Maple Grove over the next several years, and what policies will you support or initiate if elected to address these challenges? Our first responder is Mr. Agnes.
I really think that our main issue is our massive growth, and I was worried about people being represented and parts of Maple Grove being forgotten. And that's why I am running, because I want to push a ward system, and that's the main disagreement between me and the mayor, who is a really good mayor and a good guy. I don't believe that qualifies as a personal attack. I don't.
Nope.
But I'd also like to modernize things, put more of what the government is doing on social media, and revise the city code.
Thank you. Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Kirsten. As someone new to city government, I can't profess to know all the critical issues currently facing Maple Grove or what the appropriate policies and actions that will be needed in the future. I can surmise that Maple Grove may likely face risk and challenges similar to other cities and organizations. These current and future risks and challenges may take the form of demographic changes, a potentially shrinking tax and revenue base, although we're not seeing that now, cybersecurity threats, political unrest due to racial and social inequality, the list goes on. In my profession, part of good governance is to stay grounded, and in this case with the city, grounded in the city's mission and vision. You got to stay grounded there. And then you have to proactively determine the challenges and threats that will prevent the city leaders from successfully delivering on that mission and vision. That's what good governance looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jager.
Most critical would be by following the advanced master planning for undeveloped areas and the comprehensive plan update by exploring affordable housing, opportunities for seniors, and addressing organizational staffing and succession planning. In studying housing mix and needs to our citizens, and also how to deal with decline in retail and the updating of police and fire concerns.
Thank you. Ms. Jayasuriya.
Over the next several years, I see Maple Grove developing economically, and the Economic Development Department, which is currently being implemented, will be positive for Maple Grove. With many new residents and a lot of new housing, the traffic may pose challenges, and also ensuring there are enough resources to support these new residents. Ensuring Maple Grove has the resources and budget to provide those resources would be a focus. Some resources, I know there's a new Hy-Vee going in. There's many new jobs with companies in the manufacturing district in Brooklyn Park, which will help support new residents and a growing population. And city services need to grow also to overcome challenges such as frequent power outages. However, there's a great team at the Public Works Building. The city manager, Heidi Olson, is doing a great job. And all of the council members and city offices, they'll work together to overcome any challenges that arise with a rapidly growing community.
Thank you. Mr. Leith.
Maple Grove is still a growing community, so we have more streets and trails to maintain, along with continuing to keep our residents safe. Making tough spending decisions to accomplish this while maintaining the high level of service our residents have come to expect can be a tough balancing act, which requires experience. We have a limited amount of undeveloped land left, so we have to make wise development choices now to have the greatest long-term impact for these new projects, with a focus on bringing in more businesses, corporate campuses, and office buildings. This will add jobs, contribute to our tax base, and complement all of the retail and other surrounding amenities. Traffic impacts must be considered with each new project discussion to help alleviate traffic congestion. We must also keep pushing for more funding to complete key transportation projects such as Highway 610. And it's also time to look at our community center. We need to undertake a facility analysis to see where the needs are, how we can be more efficient, and address issues such as the demand for ice time, expanding our senior center, and more parking.
Thank you. And Mr. Steffensen.
Thank you. There are really three interwoven concerns that I see, and that is the continued development, our road system, and taxes. We're going to continue to develop as a city. We'll still have significant growth that will occur over the next few years. All city council members have to be actively involved in that process to make sure that we continue as a city to grow like we have in the past. We've been successful in the past in growing our commercial area. We've brought in new companies like Loom to our community that will be opening shortly. We have a new hospital that we brought to our community. And of course, as mentioned earlier, we have IV coming to town. One of the important things that goes with that is the completion of our road system. 610 must be completed. Highway 169 Elm Creek must be modernized, and 101 out west must be completed as well. With regards to our taxes, I'm happy to say that again this year we project less than 50 cents per month for the average homeowner increase. And we're looking forward to next year's opportunity when the bonds on this city hall come off the rolls and we're able to plan for the future and hopefully involve a significant tax decrease for our residents.
Thank you. Next question. Do you support the city's age-friendly initiative and how it is being implemented? Why or why not? First responder is Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Kirsten. As we all know, one of the challenges and key strategic risks most cities, state, and local governments are facing today are changing demographics. Like the rest of Minnesota, the nation, and the world, Maple Grove's population is aging very quickly. A quarter of its residents are already 55 years of age. I happen to be in this demographic group, therefore I personally have skin in the game. And as this is a critical city initiative, I personally support it. We as a city and community at large would be remiss in not proactively addressing this challenging demographic to support and enrich this segment of our community. Obviously, I would be supportive of this initiative and any future initiatives to proactively address other changing demographics in support of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jager?
Absolutely. Maple Grove has made the wide decision on becoming an age-friendly city. People turning 65 in the next 10 years will be enormous. Society has changed a great deal. Modern aging is being redefined. Our mission is to ensure that older adults are valued, not thrown out with the bathwater, supported, and being able to contribute and participate in the community for as long as possible. I'm very proud of our city for taking on the initiative to go forward at being an age-friendly city. For those interested in this program, there is a gathering tomorrow at the community center between 2:30 and 4. All are invited. Coffee and cake too.
Ms. Jayasuriya?
Yes, I do support the age-friendly initiative. And Chris Orlock, the senior coordinator for the Maple Groves Park and Rep, is doing a great job since it's been introduced in 2016 when, and I believe the AARP was involved in that. I know the new action plan is being rolled out this week. Chris is having an open house tomorrow afternoon, so to get to know everyone at the meeting. 2:30 to 4, Maple Grove Community Center, in which questions will be answered and the implementation will be detailed further. Chris is sending me the plan on Friday to look at and review. I will not be able to make that meeting tomorrow as my new hotel is opening tomorrow. However, I look forward to seeing and reviewing the new action plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leith?
Yes, I do support our age-friendly initiative and implementation. Our City Council voted to move forward with this program and join the World Health Organization ARP network of age-friendly cities in 2016. Why is this an important program? Because today nearly 1/4 of our residents are 55 and above, compared to only 10% in 2000. It's important to understand the needs of our senior population in areas such as buildings, housing, transportation, and social and recreational activities, such as pickleball, which I get tons of calls about. This is truly a community effort, as the committee working on the initiatives is comprised of city staff, residents, representatives of healthcare institutions, churches, senior housing, and local civic groups. The plan was to complete the assessment, where we're at currently, where we need to go, and then create this implementation plan. I supported it with my vote in 2016, and I'll continue to do so moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Steffensen?
Thank you. I was proud to be one of the council members, as the mayor, to support this initiative back in 2016. It's a very significant proposal and initiative for our community. We have a large committee working on this process that involves staff and members from our community, resident volunteers, individuals from the hospital and other organizations that will be directly involved in the care and the aging population. It's important to have that input, and we have it. We're going to try to address a whole series of issues that relate to the day-to-day aging issues in our community. We're taking this proactive approach because that's what a good city council does. We have an aging population that we know will explode over the next number of years. As Councilmember Leith mentioned, such things as pickleball, the expansion of that, other activities that are age-friendly. It's a wise decision that we did, and I'm proud of our city for taking that action as one of the first cities to do so.
Thank you. And Mr. Agnes?
I don't see a way around it. I think it's important to note that if things are more accessible for seniors, they're more accessible for young children like my 4-year-old daughter, for people with disabilities and special needs, and working with kids with special needs. It's something that I care quite a bit about, and I would also like to explore any incentives we could to get local businesses on board. I think so often government is the stick rather than the carrot, and I think that's a horrible way to do things. I'd like to draw on as many people as possible.
Thank you. Our final 1-minute question before we start with the audience questions. Local businesses are taxpayers, but often not voting residents. In what way will you reach out to best understand their needs and provide for fair representation in city council decision-making? Please share your thoughts. First responder is Ms. Jagger.
By interacting with both employers and employees, as most employees do not live in Maple Grove, so they will need transportation and affordable housing. As a council, we open to needs of all the people in Maple Grove. We are just a phone call away, or come to the city council meetings and voice your concerns. Our economic development department needs to give us information on our businesses. Recently, we have had discussion with parking problems on some of the owners. We listen, do our best to remedy the situation. Thank you.
Ms. Jayasuriya?
Yes, I reach out to businesses daily to familiarize myself with the market and stay competitive just for my job. I work with businesses in Maple Grove, and if I was on the city council, the best way to serve their needs and fairly is to communicate with them and ask them what it is they need. What is it would help them attract more business, and use their feedback, as the city council is a voice for citizens and businesses. We're supposed to represent everyone fairly, and I want Maple Grove to prosper and continue with the regional economy and be able to compete in that economy. It benefits everyone in the community when our community business partners are doing well. Thank you.
Mr. Leith?
Well, the best way to understand their needs is to be involved in the community with them. Being an active member of the North Hennepin Chamber of Commerce, other business organizations, and attending as many local functions as you can. You should join an active civic group like the Lions or Rotary. By being involved in attending these functions, you talk to the owners and find out what issues they are dealing with. Also, our city staff can be a great resource. I know our city administrator and several of our department managers meet with many of the business owners on a regular basis. I will continue to be involved in the community and talking with these owners. When issues do arise, I will gather all the facts and make a decision based on the facts, our ordinances, and treat them all as consistently and fairly as possible. I always have and always will continue to support local businesses to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Mr. Steffensen?
Thank you. Over time as mayor, I've been involved in the community. That's one of the best ways to be fair. I've interacted with the businesses in this community to actively solicit their opinions and try to deal with them on their issues. A good example is our involvement in Medical Alley It's a high-tech industry. We bring high-tech businesses to our community through our involvement in Medical Alley. Our interaction with them allows us to service that business community. We've been involved in the hospital and its needs and how we can help it expand and how it can grow and serve our community. We have a great city staff that works actively with our businesses to make sure that we are responsive to their needs. That's what a city staff that's as great as ours does. I think it's important in the end that we're consistent and fair, and that's what we always strive to be while addressing all their needs and issues to the best of our ability.
Thank you. Mr. Agnes?
I think it's a really important issue for our community. I've been around small business my whole life. My father started two. Most of my relatives have started at least one, with varying degrees of success. And I know that when we talk about business taxes, there's usually an individual behind that that's struggling to make payroll. And those costs of any taxes they incur are often rolled over to the consumer. I think it's very important to have a liaison to not only be available to meet with business owners, but actively solicit their input.
Thank you. And Mr. Emery?
Thank you, Kirsten. I consult daily with boards both in the private and public sector, so I feel pretty plugged in. But as we're all keenly aware, the role of city government is to support and enrich our children, their families, our community, and of course, commerce. I believe commerce is the backbone of our society to support the material things that can enrich us all. As a resident and taxpayer of Maple Grove, I elect those who represent my best interests and the utilization of those precious tax dollars that I pay in. Commerce doesn't have representation through the electoral process. Therefore, I believe it's critical that we reach out to them and seek new ways to garner their input and to understand their needs. This can be done with focus groups. It can be done through research, changing trends, surveys, the list goes on. The key is to listen and seek wise counsel and then to act to support the backbone of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving into our 30-second questions from the audience. So solve all the problems in 30 seconds, just so you know. First question is, why are you putting so much, or why is the city putting so much high-density housing in one area, i.e. the gravel pits? Do you feel this is a good idea? Our first responder will be Ms. Jayasuriya.
Thank you. I live right over there, and I've actually asked that same question because there is a lot of housing going in by those gravel pits. I know right by the gravel pits, there's a company that's moving in from Bloomington, so a lot of that area that you see that has not been developed will be a company that's relocating. But why they're putting in all of that high-density housing, that's something I would like to find out the answers and research myself to also find that out because it is growing quite rapidly, and I don't know exactly why, but I am interested to also find out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leith.
Well, what they're doing is they're following our comprehensive plan. We have a plan that's done every 10 years, and we have a land use plan that specifies which areas of the city are high density, medium density, and low density. It makes sense to put the high density in the gravel mining area in that downtown area because that's where the businesses are, that's where where you can catch the buses, and where you're going to be able to walk to jobs and shopping, and so that's where they would put the majority of it.
Thank you. Mr. Steffensen?
We have put the high density in the gravel mining area. That's part of our comprehensive plan. It's been in that plan for at least the last 20 years. As mentioned, it's close to the retail, it's close to the commercial developments. It will support the retail, our restaurants. It's a great place for that high density to be located. It's worked very well for us as a community, and it'll end up working very well in the end. I think that pretty much what you see right now is what is planned for the community too. Most of the rest of the area in that gravel mine area will be commercial development.
Thank you. Mr. Agnes?
What these two guys said, it makes a lot of sense to me. I obviously don't know because I was not involved in planning that, but what Mr. Steffensen and Mr. Lee said makes a ton of sense.
Okay. Mr. Emery?
Thank you, Kirsten. I too agree that if we had a 20-year comprehensive plan, I think we have to see that through. The only thing I would say is, as far as future plans would go, I would always like to stack those up against the mission and vision of the city. Do they align with that? Are they strategically a good fit for our mission and vision? Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Jagger?
We just did our comp plan, and we redid where some more building is going on, but as with Hy-Vee coming in and any grocery store in that area, they would not come in because we did not have enough people living out there, which we do now, so they're coming in, and I believe that that's what we need all in our city.
Thank you. Our next question. The City of Maple Grove Police Department currently uses license plate scanners in their patrol cars and stores the data it collects. Do you support the practice of collecting license plate data and storing it? Why or why not? First responders, Mr. Leith.
Yes, well, these systems of license plate readers are very useful because as the police drive around through parking lots or the city streets, they can identify possible warrants, possible stolen cars, so it is a good tool to have. The data does have to be stored at some point. I know there's a lot of looking at different ways of storing it, where to store it, how long. There's a lot of discussions about that, but for the time being, it would have to be stored until it needs.
Thank you. Mr. Steffensen.
Currently, we do have that system in place. As mentioned, the police use it on a systematic basis to search for stolen vehicles or other type of offenders throughout their process. The data is stored according to the laws and the ordinances that exist, and it's an appropriate and helpful system for our police department.
Mr. Agnes.
I don't support it. It sounds like a potential Fourth Amendment issue to me.
Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Kristen. I do support it. I do think that the benefits of warrants, being able to track down people who have warrants, stolen cars, and other offenses. I do support the Constitution, the First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendment in all the Bill of Rights. But we, as citizens who have driver's license and have automobiles, we have some limited rights.
Ms. Jagger.
I do and I don't believe in the scanners. If they're used in a good way, yes, but to be used to hold something against a person, I don't believe in it.
Okay. And Ms. Jayasuriya.
I do support the police, and I do think that they need some way to be able to record information if there are violations. However, I have been on the other end of it. When I was married, my ex-husband's work truck that was used by somebody else, they did get pulled over and got a DUI. So even though neither one of us had been driving it, probably twice a week for about 6 months, we got pulled over because of that stored information, even though we weren't the ones. So the driver's licenses, the license plates, I don't think it's perfect. There's issues, but I do support them keeping information.
Thank you. Our next question. Please explain your position on protecting parks and lakes and water quality in Maple Grove. First responder will be Mr. Steffensen.
Thank you. I'm very proud of what we've done over the years when I've been on the council. We have had an active plan to preserve and create new parks lands throughout our city. We certainly have one of the greatest trail systems in this state. We have an enormous amount of parks when you compare it to other communities. Certainly those parks, those systems will be preserved and maintained as long as I am the mayor.
Okay. Next responder will be Mr. Emery. I'm jumping around now.
Thanks, Kirsten. I'm a big outdoors person, so I support good parks, lakes, trails. We pay taxes for that. I'm supportive of that, and that's one of the reasons I live in Maple Grove. It's a nice city. It's a fabulous city to live in, so I support that. Thank you.
Ms. Jayasuriya.
Absolutely support it. the best part of Minnesota and Maple Grove is the parks and the lakes and the trails. Being outdoor is, in the summer and in the fall is the benefit of what we suffer through in the winter. So being able to maintain those and preserve them and give all the support and resources to the Parks and Rec department is absolutely 100% I'm in support of. Thank you.
Mr. Agnes?
We have obviously beautiful parks and trails, and I'm not a big outdoorsy person, but, I have a 4-year-old, so she drags me to it. But I think that the current city council has done a wonderful job of, and of course the mayor, have done a wonderful job of ensuring that we have great outdoor facilities like that, and I would just continue with what they're doing.
Ms. Jager?
Well, being on the Lake Quality Commission and the watersheds, I certainly am for our lakes and streams and keeping them clean. And our trails are wonderful. The park board does a great job, and we have our new Central Park, which has got many awards. As far as the trails, again, I live on Rice Lake, and I use the trails every single day.
And Mr. Leith?
Yes, our parks, trails, lakes are great assets to the city. I'm the liaison to the park board, and we also have a 7-member park board that puts a lot of time and efforts into keeping up these trails and parks. Councilmember Jager mentioned the Lake Quality Commission. They every year they present a plan to help them with their weeds and maintenance of the lakes, and we've always supported that, and I'll continue to do so.
Next question. Should Maple Grove look at maintaining a small group of full-time firefighters to respond quicker to incidents and emergencies? Please explain your viewpoint. First responder will be Mr. Agnes.
I guess it's very hard for me to answer that question because I am not aware of the needs or the deficits that we might be facing right now, so I'd need more information.
Mr. Steffensen?
I would say no. We have a great firefighting department. They are volunteers for the most part. We have a few daytime firefighters that are full-time. We have done an excellent job with our firefighting program. And one of the important aspects here is the cost of a full-time fire department. You compare our costs on our firefighting compared to other neighboring communities that have a full-time fire department, and the cost is enormous. So this is a fiscally prudent way with a great fire department that already exists.
Ms. Jager?
I believe as we grow more and more people, we will eventually have to have more full-time firefighters. What we have now, I think, are great, and one problem that we do have is getting enough volunteers. Other than that, I'm all for firefighters.
Mr. Emery?
Thank you, Kristen. I have to echo Mr. Agnes's comments that I don't really know if we have a need. I'm very impressed with the city administration. I have to believe they are on top of this. I have to believe what the mayor said is accurate. So I wouldn't be supportive of a change unless there was evidence that we had a deficiency in that area. Thank you.
Mr. Leith?
As the mayor mentioned, the cost to put in a full-time fire department based on the number of calls we have would be cost prohibitive at this point. So far, the way we are doing it with our volunteers, we have a very good response time. They're doing a really good job. The daytime is the question mark, and that's why we do have some full-timers during the day. We have plenty of help in the evenings and weekends, but and if that gets to a point where we need more staffing, then we'll look at it.
And Ms. Jayasuriya?
Yes, as I mentioned before, the city's growing rapidly. We're getting more residents, more businesses. And also, I don't know what their resources are right now. If the fire chief and the fire department is asking for more resources, then I think the city should look at providing them more resources. If the fire chief, and I don't know their answer, if the fire chief and the fire department was saying we're fine with what we're doing, our response time is great, then I would say don't fix what isn't broken, but I would need information from the fire department in order to know which way I would go on that.
Okay, next question. Do you believe Maple Grove has a good supply of affordable housing? Why or why not? First responder will be Ms. Jagger.
Yes, we do have plenty affordable housing.
All right. Mr. Agnes.
I think we do. If we didn't, me and my wife and I, as a young married couple, wouldn't be living in Maple Grove. We didn't think we could afford Maple Grove, and we're really happy to be here.
Mr. Leith.
Yes, I do believe we have a good amount of affordable housing. We have a scattered site housing program. We have done a few land trusts. We have developers like John Duffy and Common Bond that have done really good jobs. As a matter of fact, Mr. Duffy just came before us, and he's doing a second phase on his unit. So I believe at the moment we are doing a good job in that area.
Ms. Jayasuriya.
No, I don't believe we have enough affordable housing. It's a great community, a great place to live. A lot of people want to live here, a lot of new real estate. However, there are a lot of programs in other cities and communities that Maple Grove does not participate in that we don't have. I do know that they are adding more affordable housing. Talking with the city manager, that's something that will be coming in the future, and I look forward to having more of that affordable housing here.
Mr. Emery.
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm fact-based and fact-driven, and I would have to see evidence to say one way or the other. Personally, as I drive around, it seems like this is anecdotal, it seems like there's enough affordable housing. Again, if the mayor and others have said we do have affordable housing, and the fact that I'm impressed with the city administration to look out for those kind of risks, I don't have a strong opinion yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Steffensen.
I believe we have a good supply of affordable housing in this community. Over the years, we've worked with a number of very great developers who do the affordable housing projects in a very efficient and effective manner, like Mr. Duffy and Common Bond. We've really had a good interrelationship with them. We have a great scattered site program, and together with all the rest of the programs we have in the city, I think we have a good supply of affordable housing.
Okay. Another question from the audience. Do you believe that the police department is properly equipped with military-grade equipment? What additional equipment do you believe they need to acquire, or do you think they have too much? First responder will be Mr. Emery.
Well, Kirsten, thanks for that tough one.
I didn't write it.
Well, I'm just going to have to punt on this one because I honestly don't know one way or the other if we have too much or not enough. I do support that our law enforcement has to have the right equipment to do the job. They have to have a risk assessment of the potential challenges out there, and then we have to support them accordingly. Thank you.
Ms. Jagger.
I support our police department 100%, and if they need something, they usually get it. In fact, they just got a new SWAT truck. So that's all I have to say.
Mr. Agnes.
I think our police department is properly equipped. I think they're doing a wonderful job, and all the issues that I have seen as far as policing in Maple Grove seem to be handled well.
Ms. Jayasuriya.
Military equipment, that's a great question. I did talk to a couple of our police officers last week, and I let them know I was coming here, and I just asked them, what do you think? Do you have any issues, or what would you bring up, if you were attending? And they didn't mention more military equipment. They didn't say that they needed more equipment and weren't getting it, so that wasn't something I heard. However, if the police department was saying, we need more equipment, we need more support and resources, I would be fully supportive of getting them what they needed to do their jobs.
Mr. Steffensen.
I believe we have the right police equipment for our needs. We share a new tactical vehicle with the city of Plymouth. We did that so that we could reduce the cost for our citizens and at the same time have the right proper equipment for our community. Our police department does a great job. As mentioned before, when we've been asked to provide them new equipment, we have done so. We've looked at it judiciously. We're not going to provide them all sorts of equipment that isn't necessary for our community, and that's how we've handled matters in the past, and I think they have what they need today.
And Mr. Leith.
Well, when our police department does have a need for something, they usually do a pretty good job of stating the facts and what they need and why they need it. So I leave that up to them. They know their needs better than I do. I do support the police department, and a lot of this, it's not used on a day-to-day basis, but if you ever had a situation in a big area with a lot of people and they were the first ones there and you needed some help, I hope they have the equipment they need.
All right, I'm going to put in the fun question. So what is your single most favorite thing to do in Maple Grove? And it can be a restaurant. It doesn't mean you're making a commercial, but I want to crack into your personalities a little bit. Tell me your single favorite thing to do in Maple Grove. First responder is Mr. Steffensen.
I think my favorite thing to do is to use the parks and the park trails for biking and other recreational activities, walking, going to the community in that fashion. It's fun to see everybody, see how many people actually use our park trails, and I enjoy the park trails in the summertime. I enjoy the park trails actually in the wintertime as well. So that's one of the funnest things I have as I enjoy our community.
Mr. Leith.
Boy, there's so many things I like to do here. I think I enjoy all our restaurants here. We have quite a selection of them, and as you can tell, I like to eat, so love going out and not only trying all the different offerings we have here, but just talking to the residents and people that are out and about.
Mr. Agnes.
I really like the outdoor mall. I always enjoy shopping with my family, going to places like Claire's with my daughter and getting something with a unicorn on it or whatever. But also, I just really enjoy the people. The people here are very, very nice, very warm people in Maple Grove.
Beholden to a 4-year-old. Ms. Jayasuriya.
I'm beholden to a 4-year-old. I have no compunction.
When I get home every day from work, I'm so fortunate. I live right on one of the beautiful parks here in Maple Grove. I have a dog, Freya, one of my babies, and I have a cat, Mo, and the minute I walk in the door, it's time to go and play. So we walk on the trails in the park behind my house, and yes, I walk my cat every night. He comes with us, so I like being outside. I like the fresh air. I like sitting in my backyard and looking out at all the trees, and I like just being outside with the animals and sitting by a fire, but that's my favorite part of the day is when I come home and take the babies for a walk.
Mr. Emery.
Thank you. That's a good question. I like that one. So what I like to do, boating, fishing, jogging, biking. I like to take my grandkids to the parks. My granddaughter does like unicorns, and purple is her favorite color for the unicorn. And I will say my most unfavorable thing is shoveling. So I just have to bring that up. Thank you.
You're talking to a skier who wants all the snow, so just so you know. Ms. Jager.
Well, obviously, nobody can get into a restaurant, so that would be my negative thing. Our parks and trails are great. They're well kept up by our parks department, and our new park is especially very exciting to go to. There's everything in there you need. In the wintertime, you can go ice skating and shopping. Of course, I like to shop at the dress shops.
Next question. What do you see as the biggest threat to Maple Grove's position as a leading retail and housing center in the new suburbs? First responder will be Ms. Jayasuriya.
The biggest threat, you said, to the new retail and hotels? Well, I know that we are getting a couple new hotels that are going to break ground for 2019, which is great. There's a lot more retail coming in. I would say the biggest threat is The parking is okay right now. There isn't, a huge challenge, but having those parkings come in when there's events, when we've got the Maple Grove Days or other events that create that barrier for other people to access the shops and restaurants, and people not wanting to go and wait in lines at the restaurants. So having more options for them, and also making sure they're with the traffic and the parking situations as they're building these new businesses, that really needs to be a focus.
Thank you. Ms. Jager.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yep. What do you think is the biggest threat to our leading position as a leader in retail and housing in the suburbs?
I think these big box stores coming in are taking from the small retailers, if that's what you're referring to. And some of our shopping center now is being updated. Hopefully, that's what they want. That will bring more people coming in to shopping. And of course, Amazon has taken away a lot of retail. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Emery?
Thank you for the question. I have more of a stronger opinion on the retail side. I echo some of the comments already made. I think some of the threats there are traffic is challenging, parking's challenging, waiting in the waits for restaurants are challenging. Those are thorny issues to solve, and I think it'll take some thinking just to figure that one out. Thank you.
Mr. Steffensen?
I think the biggest threat we have to our retail and our housing, and especially with respect to our retail, deals with the ever-expanding nature of the web and how most people shop on the internet today and how that's affected our retail areas. And as a result, we as a city council need to be able to figure out how we help our retailers, help those areas in town so they can address how they can make their places more entertaining, more attractive, and more convenient to the people. So instead of spending their time on the internet shopping, they want to come to our retail locations.
Mr. Leith?
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest threat to the retail here, as in a lot of places, is the internet and everybody shopping online. You see every day there's different retail chains that are closing, and shopping malls are closing up or going away. So, as the mayor said, we need to work with these people and find other ways to revitalize these centers, whether it's bringing different types of stores there or different events or different businesses or entertainment options. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. And Mr. Agnes?
I don't see a big threat. I think that we do really well in that area. I think that the job of city government is, of course, to be friendly to bringing retail here, but it is not the job of the city government to prop up retail. But I don't see any big threats.
Okay. Our final 30-second question. How would you work with the Met Council to represent Maple Grove and manage mandates that might not work for our city? First responder will be Mr. Agnes.
It's really hard to, I haven't thought of this, so it's hard to respond in 30 seconds, but I would be very resistant to the Met Council. I think there are a bunch of unelected bureaucrats that spend a lot of our money in this huge hole of, projects where it's always 10 times more than what they expect it to cost.
Thank you. Mr. Steffensen?
Well, I think that we have to continue to represent and advocate for our city when it comes to the Met Council and deal with the mandates as they exist. And if it's not appropriate for our city, we have to oppose it and work with them so that whatever it is that they're trying to require of us, we can address the situation to the best ability and for our best benefit in our community. I don't think that a lot of the Met Council mandates have been effective here in Maple Grove. Historically, some of the issues that they raised were ineffective and caused an enormous increase in housing prices in our city.
Thank you.
So we have to be careful.
Thank you. Mr. Leith?
Yeah, I think what we need to do, we have to make them aware of our needs. I mean, every city, like Maple Grove, we have different needs than a lot of the cities do. We have some big transportation projects that need some funding, and they're not getting it. So we need to basically let them know, work with them. We'll see what they're requiring, but if we can't do it, we need to work with them and explain and try to show them the way and what we need.
Thank you. Ms. Jayasuriya?
Yes, I absolutely agree that we need to advocate for our city, and communication is the best way to work with the Met Council. Communication and negotiating on behalf of Maple Grove is absolutely crucial and necessary. They have had some ineffective issues. However, I think that there are opportunities to maybe work on that relationship. We need to be willing to learn and be willing to not only communicate with them, but stay strong when it comes to advocating for Maple Grove.
Thank you. Mr. Emery?
Well, I'm going to profess I don't know a lot about the Met Council mandate. I would say that if I have a low understanding there. I would say that any relationship that we would have with other parties, we have to have open dialogue, and we have to put the mission and vision of the city first. Thank you.
And Ms. Jagger?
I believe that through the years that we have done quite good with the Met Consuls. As the years progress now, we've become almost a full-grown city, and there's many things that we don't have need for the Met Consul anymore. And I think they're getting a little bit out of hand, and I think it's time that they get to be elected officials instead of appointed.
Thank you. We're now moving into our final question, in which you have a minute to make your final statements. In summary, how do you intend to best serve this city and move it forward? We'll go in the reverse order in which we began. So, Mr. Phil Leith.
I will best serve Maple Grove in several ways. Over the years, I have built relationships with many local, county, state, and federal officials, which can be very helpful, as many times you have to work across governmental jurisdictions to get things done. Public safety will always be a priority. Our police, fire, and other emergency personnel must have adequate funding and resources to do their jobs effectively. On development issues, wise choices must be made now in both new and redevelopment projects, because decisions made today will determine what the city will look like for decades to come. Tough spending decisions must continue to be made with our growing city. And I will continue to return all the phone calls and emails I receive to help the residents and business owners to the best of my ability. I'll continue to meet with city staff on a regular basis to stay on top of the issues and how to best resolve them. I'll continue to be involved in my current civic and faith leadership roles to serve and to stay in touch. Thank you for watching tonight. My name is Phil Leith, and I ask for your support and vote on November 6th.
Thank you. Ms. Karina Jayasuriya.
Thank you. I intend to best serve my community by participating in the city council meetings, answer questions and requests promptly and in a timely manner, reach out to the right departments and correct committees for their knowledge and experience when issues come up, and represent the interests and well-being of the citizens of Maple Grove. And I plan to do that by being honest and authentic. Thank you so much for this opportunity to participate.
Ms. Karen Jagger.
We must be sensitive to the needs of our citizens to make positive things happen within our community. I will work with the mayor, council, commissions, and staff, as I have in the past 19 years, to help guide and development within our community. We not only need honesty and integrity, but committed, hardworking council members, and that I will again bring to the city council. I will continue to support more industry and business to help strengthen our economic development and provide more jobs and opportunities, along with our arts. I will keep focus on crime prevention by working with the police and fire departments and keeping our city a safe place to live, along with supporting the DARE program in schools and Night Out on Crime. Tree preservation is also on my long-term plans, along with keeping our beautiful lakes clean and safe and along our trails. Most importantly, by keeping a balanced budget and keeping taxes down. By re-electing me, Karen Jagger, to the City Council, I will continue to be a committed worker for all the people of Maple Grove, and I would appreciate your vote on November 6th. Thank you for inviting me.
And wrapping up our city council candidates, Mr. Ray Emery.
Thank you, Kirsten, for the opportunity to respond. My goal as city council member for Maple Grove would be to raise expectations of government to support the enrichment of our children, their families, our community, and commerce. Optimum governance is guided by ethics and integrity. while gaining wisdom from listening and seeking wise counsel, and then having the courage to move forward and do the right thing. In the final analysis, I'm reminded of, and I believe we should be guided by the principles as penned in the Declaration of Independence, which goes, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. In essence, the government works for the people. I intend to work for the people, and I intend to work hard, and I thank you, and I ask for your support.
And for Mayor, Mr. PJ Agnes.
I would like to champion this ward system to encourage people to represent themselves and empower their voices. I have discovered that there are places in Maple Grove where people feel like their area is getting left behind. And I would like to give everyone a more local representation and a chance to get involved themselves. I would like to see local government change with the times and become more transparent, have a better online presence. And I would like to revise and edit the city code and slash what we can.
Thank you. And for Mayor, Mr. Marc Steffensen.
Thank you. I want to thank the League and the Chamber for hosting this event. I'll continue to best serve this community through hard work throughout the community, listening to you as the residents and your concerns. We will continue to work to be financially sound throughout the community. We have a AAA bond rating. We've obtained that over the years. We've worked hard to get there. We'll continue to be financially sound to make sure that is how our business works. I'll continue to work with federal, state, and county officials to make sure that we can get the funding that we need for our roads and for our road system in our city. I'll continue to work with the businesses to try and attract more and better businesses to our community. We've accomplished that in the past by bringing such entities as the new hospital and Great River Energy and Boston Scientific and Loom to our city. We'll continue to do that. I think my goal in the end is to make sure that, you know, a few years ago, Money Magazine said that we were the second best place to live in America. My job is to make it the best.
Thank you. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Brooklyn Park, Osseo, and Maple Grove, and the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce, I would like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in tonight's forum. I would also like to thank the voters for attending and participating by submitting excellent questions, and I would like to thank the viewing audience as well. Remember that if we could not get to your question tonight, or if you have further questions for the candidates, we invite you to contact them directly with your concerns. Please remember to get out, vote on or by Tuesday, November 6th, as your vote truly counts. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.